interesting thing. We live in a world that says you can achieve anything. Just set a goal and you can do it, and I, and all of those types of things. And ultimately, what is the ultimate goal? Is the ultimate goal is to stand in front of Him, and like the parable says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." And it's the opportunity that we hope that we can create through our life. That one day we are going to stand in front of Him, and we hope that we have created that opportunity to say, "Well done." And so, if that ultimately is the goal, the question that you have to ask yourself is, everything that I'm doing and every task that I'm setting out will ultimately be able to answer that question. And that's not easy, because the reality of life is that you're going to fail at it every single day. You're going to fail your wife or your husband, your children, your co-workers, your friends. But even through that failure, you have the opportunity to do what? Show His grace and redemption. And so that's the 300,000 foot answer, and the try to make it more real. One of the things that I do is I own a telecommunications company in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're in Niceville, Florida. And how does that happen? That is done primarily because we do exactly what this question asks, is that we set goals and then figure out a way to measure them. And then ultimately what we do is, I have a daily conference call every afternoon that got moved for this. And I repeat this probably 7 or 8 times on that call, and there's probably 25 people on it. And they'll start down a path, and I say, "Wait a second here, does that answer what it is that we do?" And they're like, "What?" What you're talking about and what you're asking, will it achieve what we're ultimately set out to do? If the answer is no, don't do it anymore. Don't talk about it. So the point that I'm driving at is that whatever goal you set, whatever it might be, whether it's money, house, whatever it might be, when you set out on that to say, "This is what I want to do," if the action that you're taking does not give you the ability to achieve that goal, don't do it. It's what is your goal with your spouse, your goal with your children, your goal with your business? If your actions don't allow what you ultimately want to happen, then don't do it. And that's how you achieve goals. How do you set goals? Is to listen. Is to listen what it is that is needed. Because it's not about you. It's what your family needs, it's what your children needs, it's what your business needs. Because ultimately, if you fulfill those things, you will ultimately achieve more. And so again, that is in turn how I say that. Whatever. If I make any sense, and if I don't, we start throwing stuff at me.
Does anybody else want to jump in on that question?
I would second everything that's been said, and I would add, you have to look at what's important to you. You have to decide, before you set your goals, what's important to you, what is fundamentally important to you, not what's important to me tomorrow or what's in front of me right now. What in the long term is important to you, and then what are my strengths? And then the match between what's important and what your strengths are, what your resources are, coupled with prayer, will help you set your goals and keep them, keep down the number quite a bit. When you're talking about fundamental goals, 2 or 3, we're talking about lifetime goals now, which is I think what we're talking about. 2 or 3 lifetime goals that are big enough to cover what you want to accomplish, and everything else will flow from that. But be flexible, because sometimes those goals will change as you move along.
Mr. Pierce, I'd like to direct this question directly towards you. What's the most significant goal that you have achieved, and how did you get there?
I guess we talked about sure we're talking about educational goal, just whatever, any kind of goal.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to define. Um, it's kind of hard, pretty broad. If we bring it down to a professional goal, probably when the Lord led us to go back to school and get my education, and achieving that was very difficult but worthwhile. And some of y'all know Hudson, my son, trying to talk to him about college and vocational goals. It's very difficult to get into people's heads that what you do in college matters and the direction you set matters, and that could change, of course. And in terms of achieving, like they were saying, once God says, the issue is find out what your strengths are, like everybody's saying here. What do you like to do? What is God, what is He directing you toward? Talk to people about that. Talk to your parents about that. Listen to your parents, actually, and because they know you best. And believe what they, and trust what they tell you. So throw that out. You can't, sometimes you can't define it, you can't understand it, you can't, you can't comprehend it yet, but just trust what they say sometimes. And then when God says in front of you, then set your whole heart to it, and don't let anything persuade you from it. And just, you know, you realize you're going to have to achieve the goals, you've got to set aside everything for a period of time. Everything that you want to do, you got to say no to many, many things and say yes only to a few things. Like I said, to lead you toward your goal, to direct you toward your vocation, you've got to say no to many, many things and pleasures and distractions, and of course college is all about those kind of things. And that's very hard to do. Most people aren't doing that, I would say. And then most people find out, how many times have you heard, oh, I wish I had done this, oh, I wish I had gone back and done this. But don't say that. I mean, try to figure it out as early as you can, and go with your whole heart, and God will give you the strength to do it. But it does take all your effort. It doesn't take, it takes all your determination. Everything that you've got inside, you've got to put forth, and God will meet you there. He'll meet you wherever you are. Wherever your effort is, He'll meet you there. And He can expand that, but He'll meet you with His best, I think, but your best effort. So, probably, I mean, in terms of where I'm at, the education was important because that set me on this path, but it's like that way in anything. If it's, you want your kids to be believers and follow the Lord, then you got to decide what goals are going to direct me toward that. And some things will lead me toward it, some things won't. And you got to be committed to it when people aren't favorable about it, and stick to it if that's what you feel like God's leading you to do.
I agree. You know, and one of the things that drive my kids crazy is that I talk in circles. It's like, you know, Dad, can you just get to the point? And I'm sure you've maybe said that to your folks too. And but I feel it's important, and the reason I say that is because ultimately the most important goal that I want to achieve as a father is at the end. And so many times I hear people say, you know, I've made it. And it's my belief that there is no neutral. You're either growing or die. You know, the moment that you say I've arrived or that I've achieved the greatest thing in my life it's over. Because ultimately what we're called to do is every day get up and say, okay, what did I learn from yesterday? It's called a post-mortem in business. It's kind of an ugly word, and you know, it's talking about a dead person. But it's called a post-mortem. What happened yesterday? Why did it happen? So that tomorrow and today I can either recognize it, grow from it, or not let it happen again. And so the greatest goal that you should achieve, in my opinion, is ultimately what I said before, is be able to stand in front of Him and say, and Him have the opportunity to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And that ultimately is the greatest goal, in my opinion.
Can I add something to what he said? You said something about dedicating yourself to your goal, right? Okay. I would just simply say this. When you dedicate yourself to your goal, be prepared to accept the consequences of doing that.